Hi, beautiful people. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. It is December the 10th, 2022, day 284 of year 4 of reading through the books of the law and prophets and of the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1304. Today, y'all, we're picking back up in the WASP on page. We're going back to page 59, I think it was. It is. Yeah, it shouldn't be. Page 59. And we're going to the bottom of the page and we're going to read through the Lord's first books of this. While we just finished reading the top portion, which was the heavenly account, we start at the bottom. Now we get some of the earthly account that was happening. And then so we get done there, we're going to hop back over to the Field Guide to the Spirit World on page 174. And we're going to read a little bit more there. Grandbaby's back this weekend. They loud. They super loud. All right, y'all. So let's get started. Father, we thank you for the gift of sight. Yes, the gift of sight. All right, beautiful people. Let me say hey to everybody. Take for hey, girl. Hey, stand apart. In my grand rising. Avia. Greetings. Dawn, hey, girl. Hey, what's up? Tony Greenhouse, shalom, shalom. Hit the wrong button. Shebrew, all praises to the Creator. Elijah, shalom, beloved. Tabitha, hey girl, hey. Sister Hannah, grand rising. Jamil, shalom, shalom. The number of creation. 12 plus 10 plus 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 equals 12 equals 3. The number of creation. What? Explain a little bit, Tony. Mom, shalom, shalom. All right, y'all, let's go ahead and get started. And everybody else hanging out in the background, happy Saturday to you all. All right, y'all, page 59 at the bottom, the earthly account. Remember, when the pages are split, like I said, it's the heavenly account, and you read that first all the way through to the end of the last chapter of this particular book, and then you come all the way back to the beginning and you read the earthly account. That's how they tell us to read it. If you have one and you wasn't sure how to read the book when you saw the pages split, that's how you do it. And you read about that, I believe it's in the intro. All right. The Lord's first book, being contemporaneous with the book of Ah, son of Jehovah, and as the latter is of heaven, so is the Lord's book of the earth, for which reason one book is placed above the other. Chapter 1, the history of the flood. Today's date beginning. Hold on. Today's day is 1 beginning. 12 plus 10 plus 2. Oh, today's date. Oh. 12, 10, 20, 22, 10. Oh, that's what you did? Hold on. What was the first number? I'm sitting here trying to figure this out. What kind of equation you got going on here? I mistyped. Oh, mistyped. Okay. What, the 3 you mistyped? Up in the top? 2022, 12. Oh, okay. 1210 plus 2022. Oh, it's an extra 2 up in there, my G. Up in the top equation. Mistyped the 3. I think you got an extra 2 in there too. 12, 10, 20, 22, 2. Yeah. I think you got an extra 2 and an extra 3. Or am I wrong? My math skills ain't that hot. Is the extra 2 in there too? You said you mistyped? Yeah. Okay. All right, y'all. Let's get started. The Lord's first book. Chapter 1. The history of the flood. Hear me, O man. I am the Lord, the God of earth, son of Jehovah. I am one of thine elder brothers. I, the Lord, with my brother, lords and gods, in the name of Jehovah, speak, saying, Peace and patience be unto all men, that ye may comprehend my words, and bear witness that heaven and earth and every part is Jehovah's, and that all men and women are his sons and daughters, worlds without end. As over mortal kingdoms, kings, as over empires, emperors, as over armies, generals, so hath his heavens crowned certain chieftains for times and places, and given to them certain names, whereby they have been proclaimed to men and angels, so that the discipline of heavens might manifest the glory and dominion of Jehovah. In all time, honored in the high heaven, and known to the people of the earth as Jehovah's Lord, commander of heavenly light on earth, and pacificator betwixt all light and all darkness, and entitled Lord of earth and Lord God, so have I and my predecessors and my successors been handed down for thousands of years amongst mortals. Whereas, if it be said, the king said thus, and generations after it be said, the king said thus, and all men know. Let me just go back to 4. In all time, honored in high heaven, and known to the people on the earth as Jehovah's Lord, commander of heavenly light on earth, and pacificator betwixt all light and all darkness, and entitled Lord of the earth and Lord God, so have I and my predecessors and my successors been handed down for thousands of years amongst mortals. Whereas, if it be said, the king said thus, and generations after it be said, the king said thus, and all men know it was not the same man, but was nevertheless the king, so also proclaim I, the Lord, my predecessors and successors, for all of them were and have been the Lord. Oh, I didn't catch this the first time we read through. He's just saying, even though we switch out, we're all known as the Lord, right, for that particular position. But they're telling you that they switch out ever so often, right? Wherefore, I, the Lord, by virtue of my own authority and in Jehovah's name, proclaim the light and darkness of the past. For inasmuch as I have been exalted by the Father, so are ye all in waiting for your turn in the heavens above to become lords and gods and goddesses. Hey, baby. It's just going on further to say that in time, we will also become as they are, having our chance to rule, right? Verse 6, I'll read again. Wherefore I, the Lord, by virtue of my own authority and in Jehovah's name, proclaim the light and the darkness of the past. For inasmuch as I have been exalted by the Father, so are ye all in waiting for your turn in the heavens above to become lords and gods and goddesses, to draw your souls up in heavenly aspirations, to become one with the Father in righteousness and good works, sending to Jehovah his sons and daughters down to the earth, revealing the glory of his kingdoms in the ethereal worlds. But because of the darkness of man's soul, man setteth up to mock the words of his Lord, saying, How can I become a Lord or a God? Behold, his word hath not been heard. None have written his speech. None have written, that's a question. Behold, his word hath not been heard. None have written his speech. Was it not so in all times on the earth? And because of this darkness amongst men, they have laid bare the iniquity of their own hearts. For out of the mouth of my chosen, who utter my words, come words of truth and love and wisdom and kindness, and the exaltation of virtue. But from those who deny me come corruption, war, avarice, and the love of earthly things for self's sake. Behold, they have quibbled about words and the meaning of words. One saith, How much of this came from the Lord, and how much from the prophet? Making of themselves mathematicians on matter separate from the subject of the righteousness of their own souls, which lieth at the bottom of God's desires. What he just said right here is, you worried about the wrong thing. Repeat that again. Y'all want to talk about everything else except for the righteousness of your own soul. That's what it's saying. Let me go back to this. 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 0 plus 2 plus 2 plus 2 equals 2. Yes, baby. I saw it fly past the opening of this door. Yes, y'all won. Okay.
Yeah, we both won.
Page 60, I'm going to read verse 10 again at the bottom. Behold, they have quibbled about words and the meaning of words. One saith, how much of this came from the Lord and how much from the prophet, making of themselves mathematicians on a matter separate from the subject of the righteousness of their own souls, which lieth at the bottom of God's desires. Are not all words at best but pictures and paintings of the spirit that findeth them? And whether the captain, Lord, or his private angel carry the light to the prophet, what mattereth it to the man or woman who seeketh to serve Jehovah by doing good works? Like what they be doing with John Newborough, right? Well, who is he and what did he do? You know what, you're worried about the wrong thing. Look at the information and see if it's going to help you to raise up your grades in your soul. Is it going to get you closer to the Father, right? Is you going to be a little bit more spiritual? No, we don't want that. We ain't worried about that. We trying to worry about how much is from the Spirit and how much is from the prophet. I'm going to go back. I'm going to read 10 again.
Cookie.
Hold on.
Cookie.
Yes, baby.
We got the court.
Oh, it didn't crash. They missed each other just barely. I'm going to go back to verse 10. Behold, they have quibbled about words and the meaning of words. One saith, how much of this came from the Lord and how much from the prophet, making of themselves mathematicians on a matter separate from the subject of the righteousness of their own souls, which lieth at the bottom of God's desires. Are not all words at best but pictures and paintings of the spirit that findeth them? And whether the captain, Lord, or his private angel carry the light to the prophet, what mattereth it to the man or the woman who seeketh to serve Jehovah by doing good works? Some have said, behold, Jackson, go play with it in there. Go play with it in there. He turned and looked at me like, what, girl? Verse 12, some have said, behold, I have given all I had to the poor, and I rise early and visit the sick. And in the night I sit up with them, and I gather up orphans and helpless ones, and make them so joyous of heart, they thank Jehovah they are created into new life. Now verily all men know that such behavior cometh from them that recognize my word, whether it come from the mouth of a babe or the pen of a fool. Who then shall not find delight in the word of the Lord? Know they not that I am the same today, yesterday, and forever? And in judgment, why will they not perceive that my word cometh as well now as in the olden time? Behold, I am not for one man only, nor for one woman, nor for one book, but wherever the light of wisdom and the desire for virtue and holy deeds shine, there will my speech manifest. Highlight to that. Don't forget, we're in the Lord's first book. So one of the Lords is speaking, right? But he has the authority to speak this way because he is in line with the Creator, right? Behold, I am not for one man only, nor for one woman, nor for one book, but wherever the light of wisdom and the desire for virtue and holy deeds shine, there will my speech manifest. Is not Jehovah wide as the universe and immutable? And to be in harmony with him, is this not the sum of all wisdom? Therefore, if thy Lord or thy God hath attained to be one with the Father, and he come in dominion on earth with his millions of angels, who also know the higher light, and are ye inspired by them to do Jehovah's will, what discussion have man against heaven or its representatives? Boy, y'all better highlight that. Yeah, that's good. Kind of like what I just said, right? He had the authority to speak the way he did because he was in line with the line of light. He was in line with the Creator, right? He says, well, as long as me and everybody, my crew that come with me, we're in line with the Creator, letting y'all know what y'all supposed to be doing to rise higher and to grow spiritually. What does it matter which one of us give it to you or whether it came from the Father directly, because we stand here in proxy for him, right? Just like I be like, Elijah, go tell Jeremiah I said clean that loft, right? Elijah's going in proxy from what he heard from the commander-in-chief, right? Well, it wouldn't be. No, I was giving an example when I used the name of Jeremiah. You know, so that's just an example. So it doesn't matter that Elijah went to go tell them. The whole point was that mama said or daddy said, right? It doesn't matter who said, because they hear me, they're in line with me, and they're passing the message on to help you to accomplish whatever it is. Let me go back. I'm going to read verse 14 again. Behold, I am not for one man only, nor for one woman, nor for one book, but whatever the light of wisdom, but wherever the light of wisdom and the desire for virtue and holy deeds shine, there will my speech manifest. Is not Jehovah as wide as the universe and immutable? And to be in harmony with him, is this not the sum of all wisdom? What are you trying to do with it, baby?
I want to turn over, but it's not working.
Well, try and pull it back a little bit harder. I don't know, one of the wheels could be stuck. Go ask Dad. Oh, yeah, I think it's stuck. Go ask your dad. Go ask your dad to take a look at it. Verse 15, therefore, if thy Lord or thy God hath attained to be one with the Father, and he come in dominion on the earth with his millions of angels, who also know the higher light, and ye are inspired by them to do Jehovah's will, what discussion shall man have against heaven or its representatives? I declare freedom unto all men in Jehovah's name, but with freedom I also give the experience of the lords of earth. Suffer therefore my prophets on all hands to embellish the pictures of the past in their own way, and as far as the pictures, fortify faith in Jehovah and his works, and his power and his glory. Be ye circumspect to desire nourishment from them. And rather than destroy that which is given in the name of Jehovah, go ye and fall to work in like manner to build up his light in your own way. I like this because he said, even when they do come, I give them the freedom to explain these principles and these facts and how you're supposed to live in their own way with their own personality. Like me, when I'm reading through here and I start thinking about some of my personal experiences to bring the point across, he said I'll allow them to do the same thing. And when you get to that stage, I'll allow you to use your life experience and embellish it in whatever way you can teach the lesson to make your audience understand, right? Because I would teach a younger crowd, a group of toddlers, in a different manner, right, with different types of stories so that they can get it based on their current understanding and how they process information, right? Okay, that's good. Verse 16. I declare freedom unto all men in Jehovah's name, but with freedom I also give the experience of the lords of earth. Suffer therefore my prophets on all hands to embellish the pictures of the past in their own way, and as the pictures, and as far as the pictures, fortify faith in Jehovah and his works, and his power and his glory. Be ye circumspect to desire nourishment therefrom. And rather than destroy that which is given in the name of Jehovah, go ye and fall to work in like manner to build up his light in your own way. Herein is wisdom. For they that strive for the light of my dominion shall receive my angels in my name, and by the words they find to express my commandments shall they be known to be of me. I'm going to read again. Herein is wisdom. For they that strive for the light of my dominions shall receive my angels in my name, and by the words they find to express my commandments shall they be known to be of me. All words came from the Lord your God. By him was man made upright on the earth. As the first race went down into the earth, the second man rose up by my angels, becoming like unto lords and gods, and capable of knowing good and evil. But as the light of a full-grown man differeth from that of a child's, so in different degree was the light of men. And those with a higher light were called Faithis, Ehenes. And those with a higher light were called Faithis, Ehenes, because they perceived that wisdom shaped all things and ruled to the ultimate glory of the All One. But those of the lesser light were called Cain, the Druk, because their trust was more in corporal than in spiritual things. And the Faithis were also called the chosen people, because they chose God, who was Lord over corpore. But the Canaanites, the Druks, were classified as enemies of the Lord, because they sacrificed by means of war and death. And they sacrificed by means of war and death that which Jehovah made alive. And these two peoples have lived on the earth from the first and even to this day. Let's talk about two people. Those that walk in the light of the Creator and those that do not. Those that do are called Faithis, Ehem. Those that are not are called Cain and Druk, right? They walk in darkness. And the Faithis were also called the chosen people because they chose God, who is Lord over corpore. But the Canaanites, the Druks, were classed as enemies of the Lord because they sacrificed by means of war and death that which Jehovah made alive. And these two peoples have lived on the earth from the first and even to this day. What are y'all doing to that little girl? Elijah. It's always something on the weekends, ain't it? My grandbabies come over. It was nice and quiet last weekend. They stayed away for a little bit. See how the atmosphere changes? I'm going to bring tiny little people into the mix. They always got to be fighting about something. And I, the Lord, Son of Jehovah, gave a certain commandment to man, saying, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy soul, thy wisdom and strength. But man had little strength in this matter, neither did I ask for more than he could give. And another commandment was, Thou shalt not kill, the which had man obeyed, there had been no war in the world. In like manner I gave the light of heaven unto all men, but my enemies perverted my words, in order to justify themselves in sin. For the Father so dwelleth in man, that man can judge of truth and holiness. Elijah. Baby doll in there. I thought I heard somebody choking. Oh, hold on. Let me just, hold on. Okay. All right. Yeah, that was her, but she was just making a noise. All right. Never hurts just to double check. Okay. Okay. Perverted man. Let me read it again, verse 22. In like manner gave I the light of heaven unto all men, but my enemies perverted my words, in order to justify themselves in sin. For the Father so dwelleth in man, that man can judge of truth and holiness. For if one man saith, the Lord said, Thou shalt not kill, and yet another man saith, the Lord said, Thou shalt kill, then shall not any man mistake which is of the Lord in fact. For the Lord maketh not alive, any man whom he desireth shall be killed. Boom. That sums up everything right there, right? That the whole argument in the Hebrew community, right? With our Hebrew brethren and sisters, right? About killing, right? Because we, quite a few people have brought up that question. Okay, well, if your God say not to kill, then why he come back and tell you to kill animals and go slaughter nations of people? Men, we can understand the men, but the women and children too? Why would he tell you to do that? Well, we don't know We not going to question the righteousness of our God. They give all kind of answers. Well, that's what he said do, and we're going to follow him to the bloody end. And if he said kill somebody, we're going to go kill. But isn't that a contradiction, right? If he came to give life and that more abundantly, why are we killing people and taking their stuff? Because that's what Israel was doing. Quiet as kept. I mean, it ain't quiet no more. It's very well known. Israel was ruthless. Although it didn't seem to be that way, depending on who was teaching you what they was doing, the way it's read or the way people read it, it's like what they're doing is okay. You know what? You're going to take this land right here. Get them out of there. You know, slaughter the men, women, and children. Everything that pisses up against the wall, take them out. Right? And then you can have their land. I'm like, so I got to be afraid of you sending somebody to my house and you giving them my house? True creator don't operate that way. Neither does anybody in the line of light with him. Zechariah, who shalom, shalom. Listen, let me go back. Let me read. I know I done read this 3 times. I'm going to read it one more time. Verse 22. In like manner gave I the light of heaven unto all men, but my enemies perverted my words in order to justify themselves in sin. For the Father so dwelleth in man that man can judge over truth and holiness. And here's the example. For if one man saith, the Lord said, thou shalt not kill, and yet another man said, the Lord said, thou shalt kill, then shall not any man mistake that which is of the Lord in fact. Like he said, now y'all of the age, and y'all can choose, and y'all can see through the crap. If one man said, thou shalt not kill, and another man said, thou shalt not kill, don't be mistaken on whose words are really true. And he said, remind you, Creator, Jehovah doesn't create anything alive that he wishes to be dead, right? He ain't going to create something and then tell you to kill him, right? Because if he don't want it to live, he won't create it. He won't create it, right? Listen. In like manner gave I the light of heaven unto all men, but my enemies perverted my words in order to justify themselves in sin. For the Father so dwelleth in man, that man can judge of a truth and holiness. For if one man saith, the Lord said, thou shalt not kill, and yet another man saith, the Lord said, thou shalt kill, then shall not any man mistake which is of the Lord in fact. For the Lord maketh not alive any man whom he desireth shall not. For the Lord, yes, baby. I see you. Then take it from your brother. He gonna come looking for you in a second. For the Lord maketh not alive any man whom he desireth shall be killed. Thus was my word, excuse me. Thus was my word perverted by man, and the little light which was not lost, man tried to obscure. Nevertheless, man multiplied and inhabited the world. Nevertheless, man multiplied and inhabited the earth over, building cities and nations and prospering in certain seasons and all things earthly. But as I came to the earth to develop the soul of man chiefly, and for his ultimate happiness in the ethereal worlds, I labored not with such as heeded me not, but suffered them to go on in their own conceit, and they became divided against one another, and war and pestilence and divers diseases came upon mortals, resulting in their further downfall. And the spirits of those that denied me on earth still denied me in heaven, and in their stubbornness and conceit continued to dwell with man on the earth, so that in the course of time the world was overrun by spirits of darkness who knew not heaven. And it came to pass that my enemies slew my chosen on all hands, in 4 great divisions of the earth, in Vohu, in Jud, in Thori, and in Dis. See Sathantes chapter 2, verse 28. They left few alive of the Ehine race. And after left few, number 1 is after few, and it says they left not one. And so just a reminder, Vohu is Africa, Jud is Asia, Thori is the Americas, and this is Europe. Go back to page 17. Yep. Waga is Pan, Jud is Asia, Thori is America, Vohu is Africa, and this is Europe. Okay. See Sathantes chapter 2. Oh, that was it. Hold on, wait, no. See Sathantes chapter 2, verse 28. Chapter 2. Yeah, that was verse 28. I wasn't paying attention. I just memorized that I can remember if I go back to page 17 and I highlight it. That was the exact reference. Sathantes chapter 2, verse 28. Okay. In 4 great divisions of the earth, in Vohu, in Jud, in Thori, and in Dis, see Sathantes chapter 2, verse 28, they left few alive of the Ehin race. In Waga, Pan, had I a remnant. Hold on. In Waga, Pan, had I a remnant, and they were scattered far and near, and in separate places, hiding away from their evil pursuers. I had said unto them, every living thing that groweth up out of the ground shall be food for you. But of everything where is the breath of life, which is of blood and spirit, ye shall not eat. Whoso sheddeth blood, wherein is life, by himself inviteth his own blood and spirit to the spoil. In likeness of God was man made heir of the earth and all things thereon. Be ye fruitful and multiply, bring forth abundantly in remembrance of the Lord God of heaven and earth. And I gave the circumcision as a measure of the boundary of my chosen. And there were giants, and after giants there's droops. And there were giants, droops in those days, and in time after that. And my chosen came up to them, and they bore children to them also. And their flesh became corrupt, so that vermin inhabited them from the time of their birth to the time of their death. And they became rotten in the head with catarrh, and in the throat with ulcers and running sores, and in the lungs and joints with the poison of death. If you want to feed them in there, or if you're going to sit right there and she's going to chill. Let me read this again, all right? The chosen began to mate. They began to mate with the chosen who were eating flesh and blood, right? Go back up here where it says, in verse 26, I had said unto them, every living thing that groweth up out of the ground shall be food for you. And don't try and get smart with that. Well, aren't we made from dirt? You get what this is saying, right? Let's use some higher wisdom. Listen. I had said unto them, every living thing that groweth up out of the ground shall be food for you. But of everything wherein there is the breath of life, humans, ongui, ongui is talking animals, that would be us, right? And also, also the breath of life that is in animals that walk around and stuff, right? It's completely separate from the plant kingdom, right? Those things that grow up out of the ground. I had said unto them, every living thing that groweth up out of the ground shall be food for you, but everything where is the breath of life, which is of blood and spirit, ye shall not eat. Whoso sheddeth blood, wherein is life, by himself inviteth his own blood and spirit to the spoil. In likeness of God was man made heir of the earth and all things thereon. Be ye fruitful and multiply, bring forth abundantly in remembrance of the Lord God of heaven and earth. And I gave the circumcision as a measure of the boundary of my chosen. But there were giants, droops in those days, and in time after that. And my chosen came unto them, and they bore children to them also. And their flesh became corrupt, so that vermin inhabited them from the time of their birth to the time of death. Think about the parasites and all that stuff you get when you become flesh eaters, right? Because if they had children with them who were doing this, their children were raised doing the same thing, right? And their flesh became corrupt, so that vermin inhabited them from the time of their birth to the time of death. And they became rotten in the head with catarrh, and in the throat with ulcers and running sores, and in the lungs and joints with the poison of death. They call it cancer. They call it leukemia. They call it diabetes. They call it something different today, but it's still the same thing. And they became rotten in the head, brain tumors. And they became rotten in the head with catarrh, throat cancer, lung cancer, stomach cancer. And their flesh became corrupt, so that vermin inhabited them from the time of their birth to the time of death. And they became rotten in the head with catarrh, and in the throat with ulcers and running sores, and in the lungs and joints with the poison of death. And their offspring was born unto them, and their offspring that was born unto them came forth afflicted with the sins of their fathers and mothers, to linger in misery or to die in infancy. And they thus peopled heaven with untimely births and with spirits of darkness, who in return came back and re-afflicted mortals. When they say came back, they didn't reincarnate. They just came back. It's what you call demonic activity today. It's them coming back, joining themselves to the living, or grafting themselves on the living, right? And if you foolish enough in your ways of living, they will actually inhabit your body, push you out the way, and drive your car around the city, doing craziness, messing with other people. Enoch chapter 15. And they thus peopled heaven with untimely births and with spirits of darkness, who in return came back and afflicted mortals. And I said, I will destroy man from the face of the earth, for the flesh of man is corrupt. For by the eating of flesh and unwise cohabitation hath he corrupted his race upon the earth. It's talking about Waga. And I, clearly still happening today, because it went back to some of the same foolishness, if not all of it and more. And I, the Lord, called unto my chosen, who were persecuted and hidden away in the valleys and mountains, even on the tops of the mountains in the land of Pan. And after Pan is reference number 2, and 2 at the bottom says, tops of the mountains in the land of Pan, also called Waga. And I said unto them, because ye have kept my commandments, come forth and hear ye the word of the Lord your God. And they came forth from their hiding places, thousands and thousands of them. And I sent my angels unto them, saying, say ye unto my chosen, this is the word of the Lord your God. Ye have found favor in my sight, for ye alone of all that is on the earth have kept my commandments, and ye have seen righteousness in the seed of your generations. Go to therefore and build ships sufficient unto my chosen, and get ye within, where none can pursue or destroy. For behold, I will bring a flood of waters upon the earth, even above the highest mountains. For I will destroy the corruption thereof, and purge it of all cleanliness. Take ye therefore of all food that is good to eat, and gather it into the ships, for the flood shall remain 150 days, and ye shall not come forth and find wherewith to eat. And the angels of the Lord went to the faithless in God, and inspired them to build ships, both in the valleys and on the mountains. For 2 whole years builded they them, and then they were completed. Let me tell you something. Now I'm thinking about this, y'all. Now I'm thinking about this. Owasso College University, shalom, shalom. Listen, now that I'm thinking about this, and we know that there was more than one family that made it out of the flood, right? There was hundreds of people, and there were multiple boats. It wasn't just Noah, one ark and his family, right? Now that I think about this, and I think about how where did they say they found the remnants? You know what? They still going along playing this story. They still trying to play us, y'all. Where they found, I think, remnants. I'm not sure that I'm using the right word. Remnants of the ark, or where the ark could have landed. When after the flood, the multiple ships were scattered to the four corners of the earth to repopulate those areas. After Wagga or Pan was sunk, the sinking of the continent caused the Great Flood, right? Now that I'm thinking about this, they still trying to play us because there were multiple ships. Okay. Verse 37. I'll go back to 36. For behold, I will bring a flood of waters upon the earth, even above the highest mountains, for I will destroy the corruption thereof, and purge it of all cleanliness. Take ye therefore of all food that is good to eat, and gather it into the ships, for the flood shall remain 150 days. Right? That seemed to be the consistent thing, the only consistent thing going through the flood in all of the books that I've read, like the Bible, the Apocrypha, or Waspi. They all agreed that the flood, the waters were upon the earth for 150 days. Verse 38, and the angels of the Lord went to the faithless in God and inspired them to build ships, both in the valleys and on the mountains. For 2 whole years builded they them, and then they were completed. And the angels of heaven numbered the ships, and there were of them 138. And the ships stood on the mountains and in valleys, nowhere near the waters. Hold on. Okay, maybe I'm reading it wrong to myself. Okay, verse 39. And the angels of heaven numbered the ships, and there were of them 138. And the ships stood on the mountains and in valleys, nowhere near the waters stood one of all the ships that had been built. And the earth stood in the ark of Noah, in the firmament of heaven, in the place and grade of 600 in the Aegean roads, 24,000 years before Cosmon. And the Lord commanded the chosen to go into the ships, and they went in. And in the same day the gates of heaven and earth were opened, and the earth rocked to and fro as a ship at sea, and the rains fell in torrents. Loud thunderings came up from beneath the floor of the world, and the sea came upon the land, first upon the valleys, and then upon the mountains, so that the ships floated on the waters. But the land was swallowed up, valleys and mountains, and all the living perished, save the Ehims who floated off in the ships. And the Lord said, I numbered them that were saved, and there were 12,420. And these were descendants of the first race of man that walked on 2 feet. And after descendants, as reference number 3 and 3 at the bottom, it says, and these were all that remained. But the land was swallowed up, valleys and mountains, and all the living perished, save the Ehims who floated off in the ships. And remember, this says that the Ehims were those who kept to the words of the Creator, whereas the Canaanites or the Drupes, they did everything against Creator, right? And they lived in darkness. And the Lord said, I numbered them that were saved, and there were 12,420. And these were descendants of the first race of man that walked upon 2 feet. And we're going to pause after I finish this chapter, y'all. Behold, I will carry them to all the divisions of the earth, and people it anew with the seed of my chosen. And Jehovah blew his breath upon the ships of his sons and daughters, blew them about upon the ocean, blew them to the east and west and north and south. By the will of God were the ships congregated into 4 fleets, 34 ships into each fleet, save 2 ships which were carried in a fleet to themselves. The Lord said, I will name the fleets of my chosen, and their names shall be everlasting on the earth. And the Lord named them Gautama, which nobody really talks about, which is lost. They just call it the new world, right? Which in all actuality is the old world, right? We just get rid of the name altogether, Gautama. Don't even talk about it. Let's just talk about the other 3, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, right? And then combine everybody into one person, put them in the story. They let you tell the story the way you want to tell it, but when you do that, we get all this, these stories about color and where did the original people originate from, and everybody was black and all of this crap, right? Well, there were multiple colors. And then, remember, there were multiple colors based on the land masses that they were at, right? The colder places, they had a little less melanin. The hotter places, they had a little bit more melanin. We read about that a little bit. I believe that was in, don't quote me, it's in one of the books we already read. And then when they sunk it, all of the chosen from everywhere was gathered together, which was a mixture, right? They were the remnants of the first. They were the and these were the descendants of the first race of man that walked on 2 feet, right? So when it was spread back out, they were still multicolored, right? Some people may not agree with it. Okay, well, we keep researching. We keep looking at stuff, right? Bring what you got to the table. Let us all investigate it, right? Listen. Verse 48, the Lord said, I will name the fleets of my chosen, and their names shall be everlasting on the earth. And the Lord named them Gautama, Shem, Japheth, Ham, and Yista. And I forgot about Yista, right? The Lord said, from these, my seed, will I people the earth and over, and all the divisions thereof. And that after generations for thousands of years may know the work of my hand. Behold, I give them a sign, which is my covenant to them and theirs forever, which is my crescent in the form of a rainbow. And whatsoever people bear this, my sign shall be as a remembrance to me of my covenant. Nor shall they be destroyed from the inheritance which I have given unto them. And the chosen looked out of their ships, and the sky was clearing, and the rainbow shone in the firmament, and by the light thereof the land was found, whither the Lord brought his people. And in 150 days from the beginning of the flood, the ships were brought into their respective places, as the Lord designed them, so landed they in the different countries of the world. The fleet named Gautama was carried to the eastward, and the country whither it landed was also called Gautama, which is over here, the Americas. Gautama is referring to the Americas. Listen to this. Verse 53. The fleet named Gautama was carried to the eastward, and the country whither it landed was also called Gautama. The Lord said, from this place shall my chosen spread out north and south, but they shall not inhabit the lands to the east or west as far as the sea, for they shall be a testimony in time to come of this landing place from the continent of Pan. God said, suffer my people to bestow names to the places whither I lead them, for these names shall show in the Cosmon era the work of my hand done in this day. The fleet of 2 ships carried to the north was named Yista, which in the Waga tongue was Zapan, Z-H-A''P-A-N. The fleet of 2 ships carried to the north was named Yista, which in the Waga tongue was Zapan, which is the same country that is to this day called Japan, signifying relic of the continent of Pan, for it lay to the north, where the land was cleaved in twain. And the Lord said to them, behold, 8 Hydan shall come, and ye shall be as a key to unlock the labors of heaven. For of all people ye shall be reckoned the oldest in the world. And until I come back and unlock the sea, ye shall remain an exclusive people from all tribes and nations. And after, at the beginning of the verse, after behold, 8 Hydan, after Hydan is reference letter A. Reference letter A can be found on page 71 at the bottom. And A says, 8 Hydan refers to the dawn of Cosmon, which occurred 24,000 years after the sinking of Pan. An average Hydan is 3,000 years. So 8 Hydan would be 24,000 years. Okay, so go back. We almost done, y'all. This is still chapter 1. It got 79 verses, and we are on verse 57. Preserve ye therefore the names of my rites and ceremonies, and especially the names of land and water, and the firmament above, and ships that plow the water, and all sounds whatsoever that man maketh in the throat, and without the tongue and lips. For in the time of my glory on the earth ye shall also be glorified. Preserve ye also peace and righteousness and industry, for ye shall be a testimony in the latter time of the presence of my hand and of the Great Spirit also. Thus was settled Japan, and it continueth to this day. You know what? This says, I just thought about something. Because I thought about, hold on. They call it creation sounds, right? Of the water and all sounds whatsoever that man maketh in the throat, and without the tongue and lips. Okay, so in here, there are creation sounds, right? Words that can be uttered, or sound, or words, you can say words or sounds that can be uttered in the throat, like with the diaphragm, but without the tongue. Meaning everybody, even if you're mute or if you had your tongue cut out, right? Or if you don't know how to speak, there is a sound that we can all make, and they call them creation sounds, like om. O-M, om is the masculine form of a creation sound, and aim, A-I-M, is spelled, they spell it for the sake of spelling. Aim is the feminine side of om, right? But they say, yeah, Elijah, the monks in Tibet have a meditation from the throat. That's what I'm referring to. It's a lot of different ones. I've listened to them and I've actually done it, and you will get some of the same results. I've tried it with aim, but I've tried it more. I've tried it with om, but I've tried it more with aim, right? And it's the you know how you do om, aim, right? They call it creation sounds, but what it does, you net the same results if you do it consistently that you would get from praying in tongues. Because what do we say that those things do? Whether you're chanting, praying in tongues, meditating, it's like a tuning fork for this instrument. And even if you do it, everybody do it right now. Do like om or aim. And if you do it, there's a video. I think I posted it. We talked about it before. There's a video that Sadhguru did teach you how to pronounce it, right? And he explains a little bit how the sound can be made without the tongue and by anybody, really, any living being. And you can literally feel it in your soul. You can literally feel the vibration, right, going through your body. And if you do it, you get in a quiet place and doing your meditation or prayer time, and you do it, you will actually feel your body begin to, the frequency flowing through your body. And like I said, if you do it long enough, we'll call them spiritual gifts. Not really spiritual gifts, but, well, it's really a part of you, right? We just mislabel things, but we know them as spiritual gifts. So your spiritual sight will open, and not just for any special person. Anybody who begins to tune their body, you will unclog the ears, and you remove the blinders off your eyes, where you can see and hear spiritually, and you can perceive things spiritually by tuning your instrument, right? Tune our instrument with the keynote to the creator, right? The creator is the keynote. But remember that story, I think it was in Imethakava, right? Where he's like, okay, here's the note, right? Here's the key. Right, I'm going to give you the first one, but you got to find the rest, right? To me, talking about this, finding the rest would be the discipline to take this keynote, this bit of information that the Creator gave us, om, aim, praying in tongues, chanting, whatever. I've given you this, find the rest. The rest would be finding time to actually do it, getting quiet, actually putting in the time to do it so you can actually adjust yourself. You can tune yourself and begin to hear and see, right? Everything else, he gave us what to do. We just got to exercise the discipline to do it in order to get the results. So to tap in, right? Some people ain't going to do it. Some people do it for a little bit, then they'll stop. Some people, would do it on a consistent basis, and they don't have to tell you they do it on a consistent basis, their lives will begin to tell you out loud that they do something different from everybody else, right? It's really interesting how it works. Yes, Dawn said it's true. Meditation changed my life, right? What time is it? 8:40. Okay.
Fire. Fire.
I'm about to.
Fire. Fire.
Maybe,
Fire.
you should go past Amazon first before you do that. Like wisdom. Like, listen, if you
says wait till Amazon make for a conversation, wait for a confirmation, right?
yeah, I was about to say that. So you perceive what I was about to say to you, because if you
about all of that, but at the same time,
listen. If you didn't live here with us, right, you would have to be forced to make that choice. So don't quit your job here because you're sick of them already. Before you got another one in the works, right? That's what wisdom would tell you.
Send me that website.
His first job working, aside from working for us, and now he about to quit.
No, I don't like working at fast food.
Right, I get it. Right,
They talk
I got
about
you.
nothing. Like, oh my God, is your lives that miserable?
Oh, you done found somebody that match your gangster in talking. They talk more than you.
No, they don't talk about nothing.
They just talk for the sake of talking.
Like, yo, I'm making food, and then they just talk about. I'm just like, shut up.
They're not talking about anything intellectual, spiritual.
Fill the air.
Okay, bro. Yeah, it works.
I'm
They're
not
making
here
time
to
go by
so
fast.
please do not reason with me. I am not going to. So,
Well, you know, they're not going to hold intellectual conversations.
They probably looking at you like, boy, why
Yeah.
boy, talk? Right. Open up.
They do enough of the talking. I don't gotta- what's
Supreme bright other, shalom, shalom. Okay, let's finish this chapter because this is literally taking our whole hour.
I'm coming.
Hold on. Okay,
Coming.
what was I at? Oh, the sounds, verse 57. Okay, verse 57. We're on page 65 at the bottom. Preserve ye therefore the names of my rites and ceremonies, and especially the names of lands and water, and the firmament above, and ships that plow the water, and all sounds, whatever man maketh in the throat, and without the tongue and lips. For in the time of my glory on the earth ye shall also be glorified. Preserve ye also peace and righteousness and industry, for ye shall be a testimony in the later time of the presence of my hand and of the Great Spirit also. Thus was settled Japan, and it continueth to this day. The fleet named Japheth was driven to the westward and north, and the country was called Japheth for thousands of years thereafter, and is the same as is called China today, to this day. The fleet named Shem. Well, my Hebrew brethren and sister in that, the Hebrew camps, the alphabet camps, Shem, the Semites, the Shemites. Y'all might take issue with this. The fleet named Shem. I mean, y'all taking issue with all of this already anyway, so this is just icing on the cake for you. It's probably a cake you won't eat. Hopefully you will just taste the cake. Just taste the cake. Taste the cake, Tina. We ain't gonna beat you like Ike beat Tina though, right? The fleet named Shem landed to the south, and the country was called Shem for thousands of years afterwards, and is the same as is called Vidyu, India, to this day. I'm gonna keep on going. The fleet named Ham landed to the west, and the country was called the land of Ham for thousands of years, and is the same as is called Egypt and Africa to this day. God said, behold, my chosen shall manifest many signs and words common to one another in these different divisions of the earth. They shall remember the flood. They shall repudiate idols, but worship the Great Spirit. They shall have the crescent. They shall have the triangle. They shall preserve the 4 days of the change of the moon as sacred days, and they shall be called mass moon days, Sabbaths, right? And those are the true Sabbath days we can always see in creation, right? That's why you should study the moon cycles to make sure you get the Sabbaths correctly. And if we study that, and as I began to study it a few years back, I realized that there was this certain pattern that was happening with the moon, right? And then as I began to go through and look at things, and then realize how the feast days were lined up with the rotation of the sun and the moon, and this is what determined the Sabbath. I'm like, wait a minute. I don't think that the Sabbath falls every Friday or every Saturday, because according to the moon, the different cycles of the moon land on different days every month, right? And that's when I began to say, you know what? I think the Sabbaths rotate. Not that they rotate because from creation they're fixed, but if we're using the Gregorian calendar, the calendar that we have today, and following that according to the Gregorian calendar, it rotates, right? But when you follow it according to the moon cycles and the 4 different quarters of the moon, you're moving with creation, and it's always fixed. It's always been the same way. So we got to change our thinking. It's like upside down, a flip-flop. We got to flop back over or turn right side up and follow it this way and realize that it's not this that's wrong. It's this that's wrong, right? And if we want to follow this, we have to adjust. We're not adjusting the sun and the moon, because it's going to keep its same fixed, firm rotation since it was created. But what we have to, I remember I used this before. This is the Gregorian calendar. This is the creator's calendar, right? With the sun, moon, and stars, it doesn't move. It happens like clockwork over and over and over and over and over and over. It doesn't change, right? What changes is the Gregorian calendar, which is the most recent name for it. It used to be the Julian calendar, and then they had a couple other names. They even removed days. They added days. There was one time that there were actually 8 days in a week. I'm like, what kind of foolishness is this? How do we, they removed the whole 2 weeks from I believe it was the month of October one time. The Pope, they just playing with stuff. I'm like, who gave you the authority to start changing all this stuff? And everybody chopped and screwed in the times and stuff, right? They fool with time, season, they change everything. This doesn't change. If we understand this, we'll always get the Sabbath right, which is why I decided to adopt what we call the rotating Sabbath according to the moon cycles, right? A lot of people don't like that if they don't study it. I'm just like, I'm really trying to get in line with the Creator and do it how He originally taught us to do it. I was like, because this is a new way. This calendar is a new thing. They teaching us the new thing to help us or to make us or blindly teach us how to forget the Creator's time, right? And how to truly follow Him. Because if you can learn how to truly follow Him, spiritual insight just bumps up another level, right? I'm just telling you, just got to test it. Don't take my word for it. Just test it, right? I remember when I first adjusted a few years ago to the rotating Sabbath, I got a couple emails. Sister, who was up? Who was following you till you got to this point? You can't change the Sabbath. Well, I'm not changing the Sabbath according and showing them what I had did, right? Just emails going back and forth. Well, according to this and what I've been tracking, like I've been literally tracking every day, keeping my little notes and stuff on what I see in the sky. It seems to be like this repeating cycle. What I wasn't able to get down pat was the transitioning of the moon when a month goes out to when it comes in, because it has 1 or 2 transition days. And on the two transition days, that month is longer, meaning it has 31 days, right? Meaning the moon goes black. It's considered new moon, but you can't call it a new moon until you can see it filled with light. But technically, when the disc is completely void of all its light, it's considered a new moon, technically, right? But we actually start the month when it begins to get its first sliver of light. So we call it boom, we can see it. Now we can count the days according to the month, right? This wasn't crazy back then because it was the way it was to be done. That's how you keep everything on track, even with planting and gardening and stuff, right? You have to learn how to follow that. The Farmer's Almanac. If you garden and you ain't got a Farmer's Almanac will teach you this. Hold on, let me get it so you know what it look like. What would have saved me a lot of trouble in my early days trying to figure this out was getting me a Farmer's Almanac. Because like they talk about like, yeah, you didn't know this, the crops here, they gotta plant them here the first frost. Get you, if you still having a hard time, get you a farmer's almanac and read the farmer's almanac. They put out one once a year for the whole year because they got it down to the science, right? How to track the moon. They ain't say, look, we're gonna teach you how to track the moon. They teach you about gardening and what they've observed with the moon phases constantly over and over. What crops grow better here, when you should plant. Like it's a science. Farmer's Almanac will help you tremendously, not just with getting a green thumb, but with also lining up and understanding the Creator's time. Go ahead. They're in my room on my desk. So yeah, get you one of them. They normally sell them in grocery stores. You can actually, I think you can order them from Amazon too. I just pick it up when I went to Harris Teeter, right? But that'll help you a lot. Hold on. Okay, so we was on verse 66. Right, okay. So let's hop back to this, page 65. They shall preserve. Oh, I didn't even finish my whole little example I was about to show you. Let me read this again. They shall preserve the 4 days of the change of the moon as sacred days, and they shall be called mass moon's days, Sabbaths, right? So this is the Creator's months rotating and moving from the beginning of creation, never moving, always, everything is the same according to the moon cycles, right? If we're going to use the Gregorian calendar and still follow the Creator's time, we absolutely must understand the rotation of the sun and the moon and the stars, right? At least you gotta, if you want to count the Sabbaths right, you have to understand the moon cycles because the months are calculated by the moon, right? The months are calculated by the moon. The months and the feast days are calculated by the moon cycles, and we get the Sabbath right when we understand the moon cycles, right? And you understand that the full moon is always the 15th day of the month. It's the middle of the month. The new moon is the beginning of the month. If you can get those, even just those couple things down pat, you'll be able to get the Creator's calendar correct. So while the Gregorian calendar is moving, changing days and weeks, like months to come, and you will notice they kind of do this a little bit, but they don't really explain it to you. Like every year, the days in the week rotate the numbers. So like, just like, look at your birthday. Your birthday never falls. Like if you were born on a Tuesday, your birthday is not Tuesday of every year. It rotates throughout the week, right? So there's semblance. You can see a little bit of the Creator's calendar worked into the Gregorian calendar. It's the same exact way. If your birthday moves a different day every month, and even Christmas and Thanksgiving, although they put, and it'll fluctuate with Thanksgiving, right? It's always the third, I think it's always the third Thursday in the month of November. Sometime it'll be on like the 23rd, sometime the 24th, sometime the 25th, depending on how the year is moving, how it rotates. But they put it there. It's never on the same date. Like it's not always on like the 24th, right? But it's always on the same day, the third Thursday of the month of November. To where it's Christmas, they flip it around. It's always on the same date, but it's never on the same day of the week, which is why Christmas has been on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday as the years rotates. They kind of bunch stuff together. It's crazy. You got certain holidays like January the 15th, Martin Luther King Day, right? It could fall on any day. It's a set specific day. They just got a bunch of crap going on in the Julian calendar, and it gets you further confused when you try to understand the Creator's calendar, right? So if these days, the days and the dates rotate every year, you would have to understand that the Sabbath is not going to be every Friday or every Saturday. Some people even still say Sunday, right? You would have, if you understand that about the Gregorian calendar, somebody should be asking the question, okay, well, if my birthday rotate and the days of the week rotate for Christmas, and then even with Thanksgiving, we got Martin Luther King, we got Columbus Day. Why is the Sabbath not moving? If everything else is moving, whether it's the day or the date, why don't the Sabbath move? Has nobody asked that question? Don't nobody really want to deal with that because, oh, no, you leave that alone. We don't mess with that. It's going to be always Friday, whatever date it is. It's crazy. It gets kind of confusing, but it's not really once you begin to actually sit down and study it. Selah also gave us his calendar, which is 7, 4, 21, and 28. Exactly. And if you actually, I wouldn't say that's Selah's. That's actually that's when the 4 quarters of each those are 4 quarters of the moon: the 7th, the 14th, the 21st, and the 28th. Right? If you track it, keep those numbers in mind. But the Sabbaths, those are the 4. Those are the 4. Let me make sure I say this right. Because, okay, when you, here's what messes people up with counting, right? They say, okay, so the Sabbath is every 7 days, right? And this is, what they're not taking into account is the first day of the month, right? It will be the first night of the month. We start counting, and I'm not going to flip it, but I want you to pay attention to something. When we first see the moon for the new month, we first see it at night, right? Which we can kind of see a little bit. We had these conversations with different Hebrews or people that's following the Jewish calendar. Well, the day begins at night, and then all of that talk. When the moon makes its first appearance, is always on the evening of the last day of the previous month. In the western sky, as the sun is going down, you will see the first glimmer of the new moon, right? And when you first, and she's only present between 2 to 4 hours, right? When you see her, that marks the first night of the month, right? It's like the preview, like the first day begins tomorrow. Day is we know it's day because the sun is out. We know it's night because of the moon, right? The sun never changes its course whatsoever. It's the same. It doesn't move around and hop around like the moon. It just keeps it because it governs the day. Whereas the moon, it governs the night, but also feast days and Sabbaths to get the calendar count correct, right? So you see the new moon show, the sliver, that's the first night of the month. The very next day would be the first day of sunlight for this new month, which would be the first day, right? So we count the Sabbaths by the days, right? Because you got 6 days to work, 1 day to rest. In a regular week, we count the days by the sun. So even though the moon here is day 1, if we count it like that without January, February at the top, if we just get a 4-week calendar and we put the numbers in, don't use like the calendar days, like the Julian calendar, the Gregorian calendar. Use it according to the moon cycle. So you will have the moon cycle and the sun cycle. So you will have 2 sets of numbers on the calendar. So the first day, we will have day 1 of the moon, which is the first night of the month. The very next day, because on this day right here where the moon shows, it's the last day of this month. So it's the 30th or it's the 31st of this month. It's the last day of sunlight for this moon cycle, but it's the first night of the count for the next new month that's starting. So you got the first night of the moon, and then this right here is the first day of sunlight for the next month. So you got 1, 2, 3, and you go around to 6 and 7, and 7 would be the Sabbath. But when you get to 7, you will see that the moon is number 8, right? So you have the counts where it's like 7 is, I don't want to confuse y'all. 7, 14, 21, and 28. But for the moon is 8, 15, 22, and 29. I think. I'm going to have to get it. I'm going to screenshot it so you can see it because I got an app and some of my stuff. But I don't want to confuse y'all. But sometimes it may sound confusing. trying to keep up with somebody, but you will really get it if you actually get out there and observe it, right? And that's where I found my understanding. It was coming to light, because just sit and listen to somebody explain it to you, I'm just like, what did you just say? It's like going away out other smoke coming out both my ears. So that's why you have to have the actual observing part in there, so you can see how it's moving. It's going to take you a few months to catch it and watch the cycles, but it's a good, it'll be time well spent to help you further understand the Creator's calendar, and take the Farmer's Almanac with you or whatever, right? And but it's really, really good. The app that I use is, I use two different apps. I use the Moon app, and I use, what is it? WLCC, World's Last Chance Calendar. Yeah, I think that's what it is. World's Last Chance Calendar, to kind of double check. But with World's Last Chance Calendar, I've noticed a discrepancy, right? And I sent them an email. They never responded to me. So I'm not sure how often they do that, but I noticed, their count is off. Well, if you follow it in the app, it's not off, because they still follow that 1 to 2 transition days, the dark days of the new moon days before the sliver gets, the sliver shows in the moon. They still follow that with consistency. But a couple months, a few different months, I noticed that their count is off. I'm not exactly sure where they got off on their count, but you know what? I'm sorry. I just thought about something. Their count may not be off. They could be doing it according. That's what it is. Saying it out loud, I just thought about this. I think they're calculating it from the Jerusalem, the Israel side of the world. Because I always notice, I'm like, yo, y'all are like always a day behind. I was like, the Sabbath is here. I don't know why I never caught on to that to now. Okay, so there's not I just realized this while I was saying it out my mouth for like the 4th time. It finally clicked. There is not a discrepancy with this, but I noticed that there is, there's always like a day behind lagging. And I'm like, I'm looking at this, they got everything is explained right, but it always seems when they look at it and when I look at it, we're like always a day off, right? So, but now it just dawned on me, thinking about what I was studying before, and even here, I forget exactly where, but depending on where you're at, whatever continent that you're in, you follow the moon and sun cycle, technically, because the sun stays the same, right? You follow the moon cycle according to what you observe in the land where you're at. This is how everybody, if they're following it according to Creator's time, right? If we're going to do Sabbath, for everybody to show up at the right time with Creator when it's time for Sabbath, you would need to follow it based on your landmass where you currently live. So here in Virginia, it's different. The time is different. I think there's like a 12 to 16, don't quote me, 12 or 16 hour difference from here in Israel. And Israel doing it according to their time. So say if we spot it, we should all spot it at the same time. We should all spot it at the same time, but the times we give is going to be different because of the time zone calculation and math. But according to everybody's time zone, everybody should have had spotted it at the same exact time. So if Creator's looking down, everybody is celebrating, everybody chilling out. It's the Sabbath. All faith is Creator believing, everybody should be chilling out, sitting still. So everybody sitting still, shh, it's a hush. It's a hush from our people, reverence. It's Sabbath. You should be able to walk in and tell it's Sabbath, right? But if you come down to our level, over here, it could be Friday. And over there, it could be Saturday, different times, right? But I hope I'm not screwing it up. But y'all get what I'm saying, right? Depending on the count, you just got to make sure you got your math right for where you live. And in the bigger overall picture, all of that's going to come together where, from a higher standpoint, everybody is doing it at the same exact time. Kind of like when they was having this, when they was doing the exorcism, and they had people joining them from a couple different places, different states, and a couple other different continents according to their time. Well, we're doing it according, everybody synchronize your watches, right? We're going to do it here in Virginia at 7 p.m. on Wednesday. What is that on is that Tuesday, your time, 4 p.m. or whatever? Y'all get what I'm saying? So according to your time zone, sync it to where all the times sync together where we can be doing it at the same time. I hope I said that right. Y'all get what I'm trying to say? That makes sense? Okay. But that's how it is with calculating the Sabbath. So let's finish this chapter. Y'all, we're not going to get to the field guide to the spirit world today. Okay. Because I got like a few minutes. And my professor, they moved the time to 9:30. So we're going to finish this chapter and we're going to pause for the day. Verse 66, page 65 at the bottom. Thank you for showing giving the link for the apps and stuff. World's Last Chance. Thank you, Jamil. Okay. And I'll screenshot the app, what it looked like if y'all ain't found it by then. I'll just put it just in case somebody missed it or they can't click the link for some reason. Okay. But if you got an iPhone, I definitely know it's in the App Store. I want to say it's in the Google Play Store, but I don't use Android, so I'm not sure. But I'm almost certain that it is in there. Okay. Verse 66. They shall preserve. Let me go back up. Verse 61. God said, behold, my chosen shall manifest many signs and words common to one another in these different divisions of the earth. They shall remember the flood. They shall repudiate idols, but worship the great spirit Jehovah. They shall have the crescent. They shall have the triangle. They shall preserve the 4 days of the changes of the moon as sacred days. And they shall be called mass moon's days, Sabbaths. They shall be circumcised. They shall remember the 7 tetracts, Dibba, the enticing evil, Ra, the flesh evil, Zimma, the joking evil, Belial, worthlessness, Avon, vanity, Anash, delight in destruction, Satan, desire for leadership, which is the captain of death. They shall have 3 great lights, Or, the all-highest, God, son of Or, Lord Adonia, executor of heaven and earth. They shall have 3 less lights, God's angels and lords, the prophets and the rabbis. Verse 71, page 66 at the bottom. They shall have 3 representative symbols of light, the sun, the moon, and the burning flame. The Lord said, and my chosen shall use these lights and symbols, signs and seasons in all the divisions of the earth, whither I have settled them. And in the Cosmon era, I will come and show them the framework of my building, which I raise up to the Almighty. God said, now was the world of one language and one speech. In all the places of my people spake they alike, man to man. Nevertheless, in all parts of the earth, there lived ground people who were black and brown and burrowed in the ground, and they had long arms and curved backs and were naked and not ashamed, for which reason they were called Drooks. And it has reference letter B after Drooks. If you hop over to page 71 at the bottom, B says, Drooks are an extinct race. All current races of humanity today are Ehuans and Gons, regardless of skin color. Right? And it shows that chart all the way in the back with the lineage of humanity. Everybody alive today, no matter what color they are the offsprings of the Ehuans and the Gons. All right, go back to page 66, page 76. We only got 4 more verses and we're done. The Lord spake unto the chosen, the Ehims, saying, behold the earth, I give it to you to be yours forever. Mingle not with the Drooks, for they are without understanding and are not heirs to everlasting life. Now many inquired of the Lord, saying, if these have no understanding, be not heirs to everlasting life, how shall it be with our children who die in infancy? The Lord said, this is a matter of the seed and not of learning. Whoever is born of my chosen shall inherit my everlasting kingdom. And this, my beautiful people, is where we pause at today. We got to go. I didn't realize it was going to take us this long to read this chapter. I forgot this chapter was this long. All right, y'all. So forget what I said at the beginning. We're going to hop over to the Field Spirit Guide. We definitely do not have time today. So page 59 to page 66. And thank y'all for hanging out. Check my inbox. Okay, Shibu. And I know y'all said a lot of stuff. I missed a lot of stuff. I'll scroll through it a little bit later, see if there was any questions that I missed, and I'll come back to it tomorrow. Right, but we got to get out of here, y'all. I gotta be in class shortly. It's online, so I ain't got to drive all the way to Virginia Beach today. All right, y'all. So it is Saturday, December 10th, 2022, day 284 of year 4, reading through the books of the Law and the Prophets, another 4-year consecutive day count, day 1,304. And we read the first chapter of the Lord's first book. And we started on page 59 all the way to page 56. And with that being said, Father, we thank you not only that you have given us the ability. Not only do we thank you for spiritual sight, we thank you also for hearing spiritually. Thank you that you created us 2-part beings where we can understand the world around us spiritually, and how you created not just be locked in here on the flesh. We thank you for education and awakening us to education on who and what we really are and what we can really do here and how we can tune ourselves and bring ourselves up higher. Thank you. Just thank you. All right, beautiful people. I love y'all. I'll see y'all back here tomorrow morning, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Nene, shalom, sis. I'm sorry. I saw you come in a little while ago, and I just forgot to say hey. All right, y'all. I love y'all. And everybody that I missed, thank y'all for hanging out in the background. Enjoy your day. See y'all tomorrow. Peace.